Riddle me this. What crop grows underground but is not a root vegetable? We think of it as a nut, but it doesn't grow on trees, and it's more related to a bean than a nut. Wait, did you say peanut? You are right. How'd you know? So join me as we plant the easiest crop in the world, and we're going to uncover all these fascinating secrets about it along the way and learn lots of fun facts. And there are plenty. Let's do it. So a couple of months ago, I planted 8 peanuts, out of which 4 grew and barely survived. And I say barely survived because I went on vacation about a month ago, and when I came back, this thing had been eaten all the way to the bottom. Some mice got in, but they all bounced back. All of them got eaten and all of them bounced back. They are real survivor plants. That's why I say they are easy to grow. So today it's going to be all about peanuts. We'll talk a little bit about the various types of peanuts and how they grow under their native conditions. Then we'll get into the transplant setup and what we're going to be doing to make sure that we're trying to replicate as much as possible those conditions under which they grow natively. And then finally, we'll talk about some ongoing maintenance, some problems and pest challenges that you might face, and we'll wrap it up with some fun facts about the peanut. So first off, let me give you some fantastic statistics about peanuts that you probably didn't know. Do you know what the largest producer of peanuts in the world is? It's China at 37%. Coming in at place number 2 is India, my country of birth, at 13%, and the US 5%. Now in the US, there are 4 main types of peanuts that are grown. The most common is what's called the runner peanut at 85% of all peanuts produced. So that's the one that's probably in your peanut butter, as well as if you go to a feed store, that's what you're probably getting to feed to your animals. Now, here's a tip for you right off the bat. You can actually grow peanuts from raw peanuts that you get at the feed store. So make sure that they come in their shell like this and that they are raw. You don't want to get roasted peanuts because obviously those are not going to grow. So that's a cheap way. Of course, you're most likely going to get runner peanuts, and that's great. They're heavy producers and that's why they're so popular. But then there are 3 other varieties that are grown. The Virginia peanut, which is actually what I am going to be growing, which is well known for its large size. Now that comes in at about 10% of peanuts that are grown in the US. And then in place number 3 is the Spanish peanut. Now the Spanish peanut is well known for its oil content, and it's often used to make candy and other things, but it's only at about 2%. And then finally is the Valencia peanut. Now these are smaller peanuts, but they are super sweet peanuts, and they are at a whopping 1%. Did that add up to 100%? I don't think so. Anyway, the rest is probably some random peanuts like those striped ones that are pretty cool that I do want to grow sometime. Now, where do peanuts grow natively? Peanuts are thought to originate from South America in the warm subtropic and tropical areas, and they grow really well in those types of conditions. So a nice, humid, warm, sunny type of environment, which unfortunately I don't check all the boxes over here in California, and that's why I've got to do something to make sure that my peanuts grow well, because our summers are hot, 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 but they're also extremely dry, and peanuts need a lot of moisture and humidity, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to try to simulate those conditions. Another thing about peanuts is they need plenty of sunshine. So make sure that wherever you plant them, they're getting a minimum of 8 hours of sunshine a day. And soil, really important, they need acidic soil. So I've got some potting soil that I've put in here. Let's test the pH. I've already done it, so I know what it is, but this pH meter, really handy to have because things like blueberries behind me also need very acidic soil. Let's do a close-up and I'll show you what the soil measures. We're clocking in at 7.0. It was actually 7.2 a little bit earlier, so I'm surprised that it's come down to 7.0, but sometimes it's at a different pH depending on different parts of the soil. So let's see what it is over here. There we go, that's roughly 7.2. Not exactly acidic. Peanuts need a pH of 6 to 6.5, and this is 7.2. That is way too high for peanuts, so we're going to have to do something about that. Fortunately, I've got the same situation with my blueberries, but as you can see, I have managed to get the soil to drop to a pH of ding, 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 5.4, which is right in the range that blueberries love, 4.5 to 5.5. Peanuts are a little bit higher, but still more acidic than my soil currently is. So what do we do about it? Well, I've got a video where I show how I brought the pH down for this soil, which was also roughly 7 point something when it started out. Over the course of the year, I was able to bring it down to within the range that blueberries need. And I did it by adding elemental sulfur to the soil. Now, this is a biological process, the breakdown of elemental sulfur by the microorganisms and converting that into sulfuric acid, which is what makes the soil acidic. So it takes a while. So you've got to be prepared with acidic soil when you get started on growing blueberries for sure, and also for peanuts if you want them to thrive. However, I've also got a short-term solution for that, and I'm going to put a link to a video where I show you how I do the short-term as well as the long-term fix for blueberries. Similar concept is going to apply here with the peanuts. I use vinegar basically for the short-term solution, but I'll show you exactly how I do that in the blueberry video. Oh, and one more thing I almost forgot. Calcium. I use bone meal. Just add it into my potting mix and mix it up a little bit. Peanuts also like sandy soil, so I throw in some sand into my homemade potting mix. I always make my own, and if you'd like a recipe for it, I'll put a link to it at the end of this video. Basically what it is a mixture of compost to coco coir to vermiculite in a ratio 1:1:1, and then I also throw in some vermicompost, some bone meal, maybe some blood meal, some alfalfa pellets for that extra boost of nitrogen, and that makes amazing potting soil. Now let's go ahead and transplant these peanuts. I'm going to show you some of the things that I'm going to be doing to replicate those native conditions. And by the way, if you're getting value from this video so far, I sure would appreciate a big thumbs up. So we already talked about the things that I'm doing to make the soil more like its native conditions, which is that acidic, sandy soil. But I want to show you some of the things that I'm going to be doing to keep that moisture in the soil. I live in the Bay Area. It's extremely hot and dry, and peanuts do not tolerate drying out at all, and they need that moist, humid conditions. So let me show you this setup over here, and it works really, really well. I did it last year with some of my tomatoes, and they did just magnificently. Let me spin the camera around. Here is a tote, and at the bottom of the tote, I've got a little outlet. Now you can just have a hole over here about 1 inch from the bottom, but the idea over here is that I'm going to be maintaining about 1 inch of water at the bottom of this tote. I'm using grow bags because they're nice and flexible, and I can fit 2 of them in this one tote. But the problem with grow bags is that they dry out very, very easily. And so having some moisture at the bottom is going to help maintain a nice, moist, and hopefully humid environment as well. And I will regularly come and check to see whether there is enough water. If there isn't, I will pour water, and I always maintain that 1 inch at the bottom, which will constantly, with the evaporation, create that humid environment for the peanuts. So peanuts like to grow close to the soil because what they do is that they put out these flower shoots, these beautiful little yellow flowers that look exactly like pea flowers, but yellow. And then from the flower stalk, they shoot out these pegs that drop into the soil, and that's where the peanut forms. So you do not want to stake your peanut, even if it looks like it's falling over. In fact, I saw a video where somebody was actually stomping on the peanuts. Or they had lots of plants in a row, and they were stomping on them because the plant needs to be really close to the ground, and that's where the peanuts are formed. So let's go ahead and plant this up. I just love peanuts. In India, when I was growing up, after school, we'd come out and they'd be roasting peanuts in sand. So they'd have a container over a flame, and they'd roast the peanuts in sand, and then they'd sift it, and then they'd put them in these little newspaper cones, and they'd give them to us for like 10 paisa. I don't even think that low of a currency exists anymore, but it was so much fun. We look forward to it so much. What's your favorite peanut dish to eat? You know, when I was in Mississippi a few months ago, I stopped at a gas station and they were selling boiled peanuts, and I always wanted to try boiled peanuts, so I got some, and they were okay. I think maybe I just felt that they were a little overcooked, but I'd love to make them myself. So if you've got a great recipe for boiled peanuts, do put it in the comments below. It can't be that hard. All right. So with that, the first of my peanuts is planted. And I'm going to go ahead and do this one as well. But one thing I wanted to share was pests. Peanuts are a favorite morsel, both the peanut as well as the plant, to a lot of things. Chipmunks and mice, and for me, roly-polies as well just take down the entire peanut plant. So I'm going to show you what I'm going to do to keep those little critters at bay. Always water in your plants as soon as they are transplanted, because it really helps settle the roots in and gives them a nice good start. Of course, I'm going to be filling up the bottom of this to about an inch as well, right? And here is my great defender against the mice. I hope I don't have roly-polies, but usually Sluggo Plus does a fairly good job at keeping the roly-polies at bay. So basically this is just chicken wire, you guys. I've made a little makeshift cage with chicken wire. I'm going to sew up the top with some wire as well, and that should really keep the mice out, hopefully. I know that where there's a will, there's a way. If they want to get to it, they will. At least this should be a great deterrent. Now, as far as disease goes, peanuts can get things like rust and leaf spot and blight and other viral diseases. So keep an eye on that. Watch your plants carefully and take care of it as soon as it happens. Now, one other thing that you want to do as the peanut plant grows is you want to come and start mulching and hilling up, just like you would potatoes, when the flowers start to happen. That way you're bringing the soil up closer to the flowers and they can easily put down those pegs and form your peanuts. Okay, I'm going to run some fun facts through on the screen, but before that, I'm going to do a quick recap screen of all that we talked about today. So get ready to screenshot. Coming up in 3, 2, 1. Live green and love your greens.